They say you shouldn't listen too closely when someone talks about the people they've lost. But the first time she mentioned her ex-husband, it stuck to me like grease under my fingernails. I was 23, too young to know better, working late at the hotel's service desk. The lobby was half empty, the air heavy with that mix of fresh polish and stale coffee. She walked in just before closing, dark hair loosely tied back, blazer slung over one arm like she'd grown tired of pretending she still needed it. Her presence made the room shift. Not loud, not dramatic, just centered. She asked for a copy of her room key, her voice low, steady, carrying a weight that made me straighten up. As I handed her the card, she looked at me a second longer than necessary. "Thanks," she said, softer now, as though testing how the word would land. That's when I noticed her hands. Elegant, sure, but restless, tapping the folder she carried, brushing invisible dust from the counter. I only realized later it wasn't nervousness. It was restraint. She could have walked away, but instead she lingered. "You remind me of someone I used to know," she added. A throwaway line, maybe, but the way her eyes tightened at the corners told me it wasn't careless. I swallowed the urge to ask who. Instead, I said, "Hopefully someone you liked." A dumb joke, but it made her lips curve, just slightly. The lobby clock ticked too loudly. I could hear the distant elevator doors closing somewhere above us. It felt like the whole hotel had narrowed to the space between us, the faint hum of the desk lamp, her gaze that didn't flinch. "You're careful with words," she said finally. "Most people aren't." That caught me off guard. I didn't know if it was a compliment, an observation, or a warning. My hand twitched against the counter, wanting to steady itself, but I held it there, as still as I could. She slipped the key card into her folder and gave me the smallest nod, like she was deciding something I wasn't privy to. Then she turned, heels clicking against the marble floor, her silhouette framed by the glass doors leading back into the quiet corridor. I should have forgotten her then, let the night fold back into routine. But when she reached the hallway, she stopped, just for a breath. Then, without looking back, she said, "It's strange, isn't it? How someone can ruin everything with just one comparison." Her words hung in the air after she disappeared around the corner. I stood frozen behind the desk, the hum of the lamp filling the silence she left behind. I didn't know her story, not really, but I knew I'd carry that sentence with me longer than I should. And I haven't stopped thinking about the way she said it, like she was telling me, not the empty corridor. I didn't expect to see her again so soon, but the universe doesn't really care about expectations. It was 3 days later. My shift had just started when I spotted her at the corner table of the lobby cafe, papers spread out like she was trying to tame them into order. She wore reading glasses this time, sliding them low on her nose as she scribbled notes in the margins. The blazer was gone. Instead, she had on a soft gray sweater that looked borrowed from someone else's world. She barely noticed me at first. That gave me the chance to notice her, really notice. The way she held her pen too tightly, pausing mid-sentence as though the words fought back. The faint smudge of mascara at the corner of one eye, like she'd rubbed it earlier without realizing. And her laugh, short, unguarded, when the waitress nearly spilled her coffee and apologized 3 times. I told myself I was just passing by, checking the tables like I was supposed to. But I slowed anyway. "You're working too hard," I said lightly, nodding at the fortress of papers. She glanced up, eyes narrowing just a fraction before softening. "Better than not working at all," she replied, her tone smooth but thinner around the edges than the first night. I asked if she needed anything, water, more coffee. She shook her head, then hesitated, as if there was something else she wanted to ask but didn't. That hesitation said more than words could. I leaned against the service card, keeping it casual. "Long day." Her lips pressed together before parting again. "Long few years." She said it like she hadn't meant to. Her gaze dropped back to the papers almost immediately, as though she could fold the words back into them. I didn't push. Instead, I noticed the way her fingers lingered on the rim of the coffee cup, tracing it slowly, as if grounding herself. The silence stretched, heavy but not empty. Then she surprised me. "You're observant," she murmured, not looking up. "Most people don't see past the surface." I didn't know what to do with that. So I shrugged, keeping my voice even. Sometimes the surface tells you less than the cracks. That earned me the faintest smile. Tired, but real. The waitress returned to clear the table next to us, breaking the moment. She shuffled her papers together, slipping the glasses off with a practiced motion, as though she'd just remembered I wasn't supposed to see her this way. Unguarded, weary, almost breakable. Before she left, she placed one hand briefly on the edge of my cart, her fingertips brushing the metal. Not enough to mean anything, but enough to mean everything. "Thank you," she said simply. "Not for coffee, not for service. Something else." And then she was gone, papers tucked away, sweater sleeve brushing against her wristwatch as she disappeared into the elevator. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at the faint fingerprint smudge she'd left on the cart, the hum of the lobby feeling louder now. Because the truth is, that one tired smile was enough to follow me into the night. The rain started just as my shift ended. Heavy, slanting, the kind that drowns out every other sound. I was halfway to the door when I saw her again, standing by the lobby windows, arms crossed, staring at the storm like it had interrupted something she couldn't quite say out loud. "Forgot an umbrella?" I asked. She turned slightly, offering me a rueful half-smile. "Didn't think I'd need one." I hesitated, then stepped closer, close enough to hear the quiet rhythm of her breath beneath the thunder. The lobby had emptied out, only the night clerk at the desk and us by the window. It felt like we were on an island, the storm cutting us off from everything else. "You can wait it out here," I said. "Rain like this doesn't last." She didn't answer right away. Instead, her eyes followed the water sliding down the glass. "I used to love storms," she murmured. "Now I just think of everything they ruin." Something in her voice, soft, breaking around the edges, pulled me closer. I wanted to ask what she meant, who had ruined what, but I didn't. My restraint felt like a weight pressing against my chest. She leaned her shoulder lightly against the glass, the sleeve of her sweater brushing mine. That small contact made my skin tense, like it had been waiting for it. "Can I tell you something?" she asked suddenly. I nodded before I could stop myself. She exhaled, almost a laugh, but not quite. "I said something once, something stupid. Compared someone I loved to someone I used to love. He didn't forgive me. He didn't even argue. He just walked away." Her eyes flicked toward me, searching for something, maybe judgment. I held her gaze, steady, though my stomach twisted at the rawness of it. "I shouldn't have said it," she added, more to herself than to me. I wanted to tell her it wasn't fair, that one mistake shouldn't define her. I wanted to tell her I wouldn't walk away, but the words stayed locked in my throat because I wasn't supposed to say them. Not here, not with her. The silence stretched, filled only by the rain hammering the windows. Then, without warning, her phone buzzed on the table behind us. She glanced back, the light from the screen catching the tight lines around her mouth. She didn't pick it up, didn't even move toward it. For a moment, we were suspended. Two people too close, saying too little, wanting too much. Her hand shifted slightly, almost brushing mine again, and for half a second I thought she might let it. I thought I might let myself. But then she stepped back, shoulders straightening, guard sliding into place as quickly as it had dropped. "You should get going before the rain traps you too," she said, her tone lighter, practiced, as if nothing had passed between us. I nodded, forcing a smile I didn't feel, and walked toward the door. The glass was cold beneath my palm as I pushed it open, but all I could think of was the warmth of her sleeve brushing mine, and how close it had been to something neither of us was ready to name. It was late, later than either of us should have still been in the lobby. The storm had passed, leaving the windows streaked with silver trails, the air thick with the smell of wet concrete. I was supposed to be off hours ago, but I stayed behind, filing papers that didn't need filing. She was at the corner table again, her folder closed for once, just sitting with a cup of tea she hadn't touched. For a while, I just watched her from the desk. She wasn't doing anything, just staring at the steam as it curled upward and disappeared. That stillness made my chest tighten. I walked over before I could think better of it. "You're going to let it go cold." Her eyes lifted to mine. "It already has." I sat down across from her. No invitation, just gravity pulling me there. We didn't speak at first. The hotel was too quiet, The kind of silence that makes every small sound unbearable. The shift of my chair, the faint clink when she set her spoon down. Finally, she said, "This is strange." "What is?" "You. Me. These conversations." Her voice didn't waver, but her fingers kept tracing the rim of the cup over and over. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. "We're just talking." Her laugh was soft, humorless. People don't look at each other the way we do if it's just talking. The air between us went sharp, charged. I didn't know what to do with my hands, so I curled them into fists under the table. She held my gaze, unblinking. "What are we doing?" The question landed like a blow. I didn't answer right away, because there was no safe answer. My throat felt raw. "I don't know," I said finally. Her shoulders dropped, the tiniest surrender. She leaned back, staring at the ceiling like it might hold the script she'd been missing. I told myself I was done with this. With feeling anything like this. "I'm too old to be." She cut herself off, shaking her head. I wanted to say she wasn't. That age wasn't the thing keeping me awake at night, replaying every word, every glance. But the words tangled inside me, too big to push out. The silence stretched again. Her eyes softened, just for a moment, like she was letting me see the weight she carried. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "He didn't even fight for me. He just left. And now I'm sitting here, wondering if maybe I deserved it." Something broke in me hearing that. I reached out before I could stop myself, my hand hovering just above hers on the table. Not touching, just there, close enough that she could feel the warmth. She looked at my hand, then back at me. Her lips parted, but no words came. The quiet between us said everything neither of us dared to. And then, in the softest voice, she said the line that has stayed lodged inside me ever since. "I don't know if I want someone to stay, or if I'm terrified they might." The next time I saw her, it wasn't planned. She came down to the lobby earlier than usual, hair damp from a shower, cardigan pulled over a simple dress. No folder, no papers, just her phone in one hand, her thumb frozen above the screen. I almost didn't approach. Something about her posture told me I was intruding on a moment she hadn't meant for anyone else to see. Shoulders tight, lips pressed together, eyes fixed on whatever message glowed back at her. She noticed me anyway. "You're still here," she said, trying for casual. "Yeah." Shift change got delayed. A lie, but neither of us cared. She set the phone face down on the table, almost too quickly. I caught a glimpse of the lock screen, two blurred figures in the distance of a beach photo. A man with his arm around her. Her smile there was softer, fuller, unguarded. I looked away before she could catch me staring. She broke the silence first. "He sent a voicemail." I didn't ask who. I already knew. Her hands fidgeted with the edge of her sleeve. "He said he was sorry for leaving. Sorry for not fighting. Said he thought I wanted him gone." She shook her head, a sharp, bitter motion. As if that makes it better. As if regret can be mailed in late. Her voice cracked, not loud, just a hairline fracture in something she'd kept sealed. I wanted to say something, anything, but all I managed was, "Do you believe him?" Her laugh was soft, humorless. I don't even know if I believe myself anymore. She finally looked at me, and for the first time, there was no armor in her eyes. Just exhaustion. The weight of it pressed into me. I'd thought I understood her distance, her hesitations. But this wound that had never healed right, suddenly made every silence, every half-smile, make sense. She leaned back in her chair, exhaling like it hurt. "You remind me of him. Not the way he left. The way he used to be, before I ruined it." The words rooted me in place. I should have said something, should have reminded her I wasn't him, couldn't be him. But I didn't. I just sat there, every muscle taut, trying not to show the way her confession rattled me. Her eyes lingered on me, waiting, maybe, for me to flinch. I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, she reached for her phone again, tracing its edges like it was dangerous to hold. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," she whispered. And in that moment, as the lobby lights hummed above us and the world outside carried on unaware, something shifted. Not loud, not visible, but real. She didn't touch me. I didn't reach for her. But her confession left a mark sharper than any hand ever could. I went back to the desk later, pretending to work, but the truth is, I kept hearing her words on a loop. You remind me of him before I ruined it. It happened on a night that didn't feel like it should matter. No storm, no big shift in the air. Just the two of us in the nearly empty lounge, a muted lamp casting more shadow than light. The world softened into quiet. She sat at the far end of the sofa, her shoes slipped off, her legs tucked beneath her like she had finally let herself be tired. I'd brought her tea without asking. She hadn't touched it yet, just let the steam rise between us. We didn't talk at first. We didn't need to. The silence didn't feel sharp anymore, didn't ache with things unsaid. It just settled. Then she looked at me, really looked. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. You shouldn't be here. I know. She gave a small laugh, more exhale than sound. You're too young, too unscarred. You deserve someone who hasn't already broken things beyond repair. I should have argued. Instead, I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and let the honesty come. Maybe, but you're the only one I want to sit with right now. The words weren't loud, but they landed between us with a weight that couldn't be ignored. She closed her eyes briefly, as if steadying herself. When she opened them again, there was no guard left. Just her. All of her. The woman who compared a man she loved to one she'd lost and paid the price. The woman who carried regret like a second skin. The woman who still, despite it all, hadn't forgotten how to feel. Her hand shifted on the cushion. Not reaching, not asking. Just waiting. I let my own fall beside it, close enough that the edges of our fingers brushed. The touch was nothing, and it was everything. My pulse thudded in my throat, but I didn't move away. She glanced down at our hands, then back at me. Her eyes were wet, but her smile, small, fragile, held. You don't even know what you're stepping into. Then let me find out, I said quietly. For a long moment, we just sat there, hands barely touching, the distance between us charged but no longer unbearable. No declarations. No promises, just the truth, acknowledged at last. And in that silence, in that impossible closeness, something collapsed, not into chaos, but into clarity. She leaned her forehead lightly against mine, the barest contact, like testing if the world would shatter around us. It didn't. We stayed like that, breathing the same air, holding on to nothing more than the moment itself. No words followed. None were needed. Because in that fragile stillness, we both knew, whatever this was, it had already chosen us. I think about that night more often than I admit. Not because it was perfect, God, it wasn't, but because it was real. We didn't fall into some cinematic romance. No sweeping declarations, no grand gestures. Just two people, one who had lost too much, and one who didn't yet know how much he could lose, sitting in the quiet, finally letting the silence say what words couldn't. Looking back now, I realize I learned more from her than from anyone else in my life. Not about love in the way movies teach it, but about the strange weight of regret, the stubborn ache of longing, and the unexpected mercy in being seen when you don't believe you deserve it. She taught me that love isn't always about beginnings. Sometimes it's about what survives after endings. For her, I think, it was about remembering she could still feel, that she wasn't finished, even if life had told her otherwise. That being looked at, really looked at, didn't have to mean being judged. For me, it was about patience, about holding space without demanding answers, about learning that closeness doesn't always need to be taken further to mean everything. We didn't become a couple. That might disappoint some people, but the truth is, it was never about that. What happened between us was something else, something quieter and harder to name. A moment suspended outside the usual rules of time, where two people carried each other's weight for just long enough to remember what it was like not to carry it alone. And maybe that's what love is, in its most human form. Not forever, not flawless, but fleeting moments of being known. When I think of her now, I don't replay the mistakes she confessed or the scars she carried. I think of the way her hand hovered near mine, the warmth of her forehead resting lightly against me, the silence that wasn't empty but full. That was enough. More than enough. And if you've ever found yourself holding on to a moment like that, one you can't explain, one you can't forget, then maybe you understand what I'm trying to say. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?